Year he. It's your girl Cassie King, and I am coming to you live and in color, honey. Go ahead and grab some snacks, some drinks, and let's go on ahead and have a chit chat, shall we? How's everybody feeling today over here? Hi, Hero. Thank you so much for joining. We're just gonna have a little kiki. I am going to be doing some review on what we discussed in our last Bible Tea Party. So if you missed it, I am going to be doing a brief recap. I am having visitors later, so I don't know when I will be back on screen. So if you are seeing this beautiful face, go on ahead and double tap that screen. Like, share, share, share. Don't be a hater. If you bless me, the Lord will surely bless you. Amen. Amen. So, what I want to do here today, guys, is I want to go over some highlights based on what we've already discussed in our last Bible Tea Party. And then I also want to give some shout outs to some of our beautiful Black queens that really made a name for themselves in the name of Black History Month as well. So, we will be going over their beautiful legendary actions. Okay, so first things first, let's kind of go over some highlights on what we've already discussed. Okay, if you missed the tea on that, gosh darn it, I left my water bottle. If you guys missed the tea on what we've discussed last time, then you guys are going to get a quick recap, and then we'll go ahead and give our queens some shout outs. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me grab my water. Okay. So y'all make sure that you guys are getting into this tea, honey, because it may be a minute before I'm able to show this beautiful face back on the screen. Number one. Number two, I got some things I got to take care of. But I will be interacting with you guys, and we'll be going over all of the questions that you guys may have. Sounds good? Thank you so much for joining. If you are seeing this beautiful face, make sure you are double tapping that screen. If you missed our Bible Tea Party, head over to my YouTube. I did upload that not too long ago on our Bible Tea Party. So last Bible Tea Party, we had to say a farewell to the big homie Moses. Okay, so I know I came over here and I surprised you guys because I did not schedule anything, but I just wanted to see if you guys were on your P's and Q's and if you guys were ready for any surprises. Okay, number one. Number two, I wasn't gonna promise anything and then potentially fail my babies. I didn't want to fail my babies. Swim. So go ahead and leave a comment down below on how everybody's feeling today. I did go through some of my messages. Thank you guys for the ones that did turn in your homework. For the ones that did not turn in your homework, unfortunately, you did get a zero. Okay, and you know who you are, but it's okay. God is watching. Go ahead and comment down below how you guys are feeling. Let me know if there's a specific topic in the book, the Great Big Book, that you guys want to read over with me specifically, and I'll go ahead and prepare that for you guys, and we could do that as well. But again, today is really just pretty much going over some highlights on all of the information we've already went through on our last Bible Tea Party, catching up some of our babies that are just coming in. And then also we're just going to give some shout outs to some of our beautiful queens in the name of Black History Month. Okay. Let me know how you guys are feeling. How'd you sleep last night? Hey, Tammy, thank you so much for coming in, boo-boo. I love you. Anybody over here on Twitch and TikTok? Anybody on Jean Angier, Red Notes? all of you guys. I have a number of platforms pulled up here. If I can't address some of your comments, it's because I'm not able to see some of it, just because I got a number of things pulled up on my monitors here. But definitely message me directly if there's something specific that you want to talk to me about, and we'll get into that. Again, everybody is welcome to the table. This is a free space, a safe space for all of those in the world that want to join the Bible Tea Party. Nobody is excluded. The Lord told us that we should love everybody and a mama. And if you got a problem with that, take it up with the one and only Lord. Okay. So I'm just gonna let you guys kind of come on in, and then we will get started. I know I surprised y'all. I know. Y'all used to me being late and all this and all that, but I had to come in early because there are some slight changes happening with my schedule. And I'll keep you guys posted on what that's going to look like for everybody. If you guys are wondering what I'm doing right now, I am taking my vitamins because I'm a healthy woman. Okay, but I can't show you what it is because there ain't no free promo over here. Amen. Ain't no free promo. Number one, and number two, if you guys are coming in just now, we are just pretty much going over some information we've already kind of went over. I'm just doing some highlights on that in the last Bible Tea Party part 3 and 4. And then I'm going to give some shout outs to some of our queens that made a name for themselves, some of our legendary, beautiful women in the name of Black History Month. And we'll go over that in just a moment. So you guys come on in, get your snacks, get your drinks. I did not cook for you guys, but I will be preparing a meal for you guys one of these nights, and we'll sit down, we'll have some sip and paint, and we'll chill. So you guys go ahead and come on in here, and let's get into some tea chat. Now, I won't be holding you guys up for long because I do have some guests coming over, and I don't want to be rude to my babies. So I just wanted to come in a little bit earlier than I normally do. We can hang out for a little bit, and then I'll keep you guys posted. If you guys want to get a little sneak peek on what we normally discuss and what we normally talk about, head over to my TikTok, and I do give a little bit of clips and sneak peeks for those who have short attention spans, okay? No judgment, no judgment, no judgment. If you guys are just coming in and you are just seeing my beautiful face, double tap that screen. Don't be a hater. Don't be a hater, friend. But there is some highlights that I want to go over before we move on into our next part of our Bible Tea Party journey. I'm so happy for those of my loyal beginners, the ones that have been with me since the beginning. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys so much. We are going to continue to grow. Shout out to all of the newcomers that are coming in. You guys are absolutely amazing. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me know my other babies know who it is and who it ain't. Thank you so much. Double tap that screen, guys. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go over some highlights that I did want to go over with you guys. So as we know, some of the ones that have been here, we went over a number of things. What the highlights are going to be about are going to be specifically about the let me see if you guys can hear me because I'm a little bit away from my mic. It's going to be a little bit about Moses' journey into taking our people, or taking the Israelites, our ancestors, over to the land of Canaan, where God promised their fathers and former ancestors to them as well. So in this journey, there was a number of highlights that I did want to go over that stand out, that you guys really want to pay attention to, just in case you guys may have let anything go over your head. Okay? Don't let that go over your head, friend. Okay? So remember the Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. Okay, it continues the story of how God formed the nation of Israel to play a special role in his plans for the world. Okay, and the reason why we want to go over these highlights is because it's a lot of these highlights are going to be very relevant in today's time, even after Jesus came. Okay, so y'all make sure that you guys are picking up on this, because it's going to be very, very beneficial for you in the long run if you are trying to figure out certain things about yourself. Now, the highlights that are going to be picking up after we kind of know about what it is that's most important to God, which is number one, keeping your word. Number two, being a loving and giving person. Number three, maintaining your faithfulness and being obedient, and understanding how to manage the gifts and blessings that he's got in store for you. All right. So we already know that when we're in the book of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, Exodus is when Moses brings the people out, brings the Israelites out of slavery. Okay. The reason why we want to highlight the fact that that happened is because still to this day, we have people who are still bound into slavery, maybe not in the literal sense, but slave to a lot of other things in life, whether it's obligations, with a lot of people who have to work from sun up to sundown, or insecurities, or mental illness, whatever the case may be. God will send you someone, particularly in your proximity, to pull you out of that slavery. But when you are being pulled out, you have to understand that it is a sign that you do want to maintain your obedience, be faithful, and try to be as good of a person you possibly can. Nobody's perfect, okay? So that's basically why we want to highlight that for today, for those of you that may be a little touched. No shade, friends, so am I. Okay, so we also want to I also wanted to highlight a number of things of when God literally revealed himself to Moses and then also the Israelites. So although we're not in the same time where God's going to come down on the cloud, because we obviously don't deserve that kind of privilege, but number two is he will reveal himself to you. You just have to be open your mind to figuring out how he's revealing himself to you. In a lot of cases, it's going to be through the Bible. Okay. For Moses, in his case, he was on a mountain majority of the time, interacting with God one-on-one. Some people, they have a prayer closet. Some people, you read the Bible. Some people go for walks. Some people do all of the above. Some people go swimming. Some people, it depends on your preference or how you are able to go into that spiritual state to gain more wisdom on how to use your gift. Because if you are being used or are in the process of being used, God is going to approach you in a certain way, and he's going to condition you and learn you. Just like how he did with Moses, he had to explain to Moses who he was and what the plan was. Okay. And so a lot of us are like Moses in a sense where we're like, we don't feel like we're good enough. We don't feel like we got the skill or the mindset or the strength or the wisdom or the intellect, whatever the case may be. For Moses, he felt like he was a nobody and he really couldn't too much talk to people. He was really antisocial and he was mad paranoid because he was on the run. So in a lot of cases, that's how we are today in today's time, because we feel like we're not good enough due to the crimes we've committed or the wrong that we've done. And also we feel like we don't have the skills. But in that case, God was like, okay, after every excuse, God had an answer for it. So with Moses, it was like, oh, I'm on the run for murder. God was like, okay, well, the person that was chasing you is now unalive. He was like, well, I don't know how to talk good. He said, it's okay. I'm gonna have your brother talk for you until you start to get comfortable. He was like, but I don't even have the intellect or the knowledge of what to even do. How do I even know if they're gonna believe me? God said, it's okay, because I'm going to guide you the whole way, and you just say exactly what I tell you to say, and you're gonna be straight. So in a lot of cases, so that's what I want to highlight in the beginning of, before we go on to to Joshua. I want to highlight those parts of the Exodus chapter, Leviticus, and Numbers. Some of those highlights I want to stand out to you guys for today's time and how we can interpret it into our lives as well. But before we do get into all of the tea of the tea, now that I see some of you guys coming in, I do want to just kind of bless this conversation. So, Father God, if you are present with us now, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God, for giving us the opportunity to come together as a community. Please bless our conversation and our interactions with one another as we go through the highlights of the Bible Tea Party. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So, again, you want to make sure that with the highlights that we're going over today, I want to start when God first interacted with Moses. So when you first have an interaction with God, a lot of the times there's those things that we put in our face where we're like, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, I can't do this, oh, I can't do that. Every excuse that you have to feel like you cannot be great, God has an answer for every excuse. You just have to be faithful and be willing to put in that work, because either way it go, whether you're willing to put in that work or not, you're still going to have to do it. Moses didn't have a choice, friend, and you're not going to have a choice either. If God wants to put that fire behind you, you are not going to be happy until you start to do it. You're always going to be dissatisfied, or you're always going to be putting your life at risk. Okay, so remember, on His way, y'all need to go and read. Y'all need to go head over to my YouTube if you guys are not following what I'm talking about, but on his way to go do what God told him to do, he caught himself trying to take a little break. And right then and there, and that's why I said, where's Jesus when you need him? Because he almost got unalived. But his wife circumcised his son right there, and therefore God spared his life. Okay, so there are some times when we get on our way to do what God said we was gonna do, and we said we was gonna do it, and then we get to doing, try to mix it up and try to do it our own kind of way. No, do it exactly how you feel God is telling you to do it, so that way you don't have any interruptions on your journey. Okay, so boom, when Moses gets, another highlight that we want to go over is, thank you so much for coming in. If you are seeing this beautiful face, make sure you double tap that screen. Let me know that you like it, because I did it for you. You're welcome. When he gets to trying to save the Israelites, hold on. You guys have to remember the highlights of what we're going over right now is when God approached Moses when Moses started his journey, in the middle of his journey, and then we're going to highlight some things at the end of his journey, okay? So keep up and follow me. And for those of you that did not turn in your homework, it's too late. You got a 0. And I did tell Jesus. And I'm waiting on your mama to call me back. Don't think I ain't forgot. When he gets to Pharaoh, okay, God already told him Pharaoh is going to say no. But still go and do what I said. Again, during your journey, at times, when God gets to using you, or when you feel like you're finna get ready to go down that path, there is going to be some letdowns. The reason being is because God has another plan. He works in a mysterious way. The whole thing with Moses was, it was building Moses the confidence that he needed to have to really get past that part once the Israelites were free. He needed to keep going and going and going, so that way not only did he build his confidence, but he was also building his belief in his faithfulness and his obedience. Okay. On the other hand, the reason why God was conditioning Moses in that way, he needed that strength, that backbone, and that courage, because those interactions were going to eventually take a toll on his physical body, and he was going to become more and more powerful in a spiritual aspect. Okay. So before we go into that part, we have to understand why in the story, why we want to highlight how many times Pharaoh said no. Okay. So y'all remember when we was going into the story with Joseph, okay? And Joseph was explaining dreams, and he was telling the dreams. Hold on, babies. Hold on. Let me put y'all back up here. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Y'all, I don't want to be indecent. Hold on. Okay. Can y'all hear me? Okay. So when I know one thing, somebody else called me. I'm about ready to. Anyway, so when let me pull you guys down some. So when we're going over how many times Pharaoh had said no, okay? So with the amount of times that he has said no was the amount of chances that sometimes God will give the enemy as well. So if you wondering why, dang, I done prayed this many times, was T. At the same time, you have to understand, God is still God. He's not gonna just do something massive. He's gonna work his way up until that final last step. Number one. Number two, what looks like he's taking it easy on Pharaoh, where it's like, why didn't he just start with the unaliving of the firstborn sons? Why didn't he just start with that? That's not the point. The point is, number one, remember, Moses had to build up that confidence. He had to build up that faith. He had to build up that obedience, and he had to also build his spiritual ability to embrace some of the power that God was storing into him over time. So while God was working on Moses, he was also initially torturing the enemy of his people. Okay, so sometimes what look like he might be taking it easy on the op, he probably isn't taking it easy on the op. He's just slowly but surely making them suffer. He's doing it. He's doing the long haul. Okay, so if you feel like when you start going through that part where you're building your spiritual connection, but you are also worried about this, that, and the third, because you have to understand. Remember, Moses kept on saying, why you keep having me go over here and talk to this man when you already know he gonna say no? Number one, because God had to remind him of who he was. Number two, he also needed to prove to not only the Israelites that he was back and that he was going to do his big one, but he also needed to prove to their enemy, their captor, their abuser, their masters, whatever you want to call them, their raggities, that he was real to them too. So even though because the Israelites had to suffer initially, so did the Pharaoh and the Egyptians as well. Because you remember when Moses was born, the Israelite women was like, no, thank you. We're not going to be unaliving anyone. We believe in God. And they was like, you might want to ask the Egyptian women to do it because we ain't going to do it. So those people had to initially pay for that. So Moses, his brain wasn't interpreting that. So you guys have to remember those highlights, okay? So again, when God reveals himself to you, most of the time you're going to have doubt. You're going to think you're not good enough. You're going to have every excuse in the book on why you can't do your big one for the Lord. And at the end of the day, you will not have any choice, okay? Most of the time, you're going to be pushed through your breakthrough, whether you like it or not. Okay? Also, when eventually, once everything was going down, every single time something happened, when God did do something for the Israelites to be freed, they had to do something in return. You need to highlight that part, okay? So when Moses was going to go do this and go and help and basically do the work for Pharaoh to initially be suffering, as well as the entire Egyptians were suffering under God's wrath, the Israelites were to do certain things to be covered from that happening to them as well. Okay? So when you want something done, you have to do something in return. My mom always told me, fair exchange ain't no robbery. Okay. Again, nothing's going to fall in your lap. Nothing's going to just magically happen. You have to do something. Okay. And that is due to the fact that the ancestors already were promised things. So even though they were promised, we also need to be sure worthiness. Okay. Another thing moving forward, and the next thing that I wanted to highlight, there was a point where God already knew that they were not going to get free before he did his last big one with unaliving all of the firstborn male. He already knew that. Okay, he didn't even get to his big one yet. But there was a segment where God needed Moses to go down there and tell Pharaoh to allow his people to worship. Okay, so even when you're being bound, and even though you're being in a sense of where you know God is pulling you out of it, but he ain't do it just yet, you still need to find time to worship in the midst of your madness, in the midst of the cruel, whatever situation it is, whatever it's giving, whatever it is that has you bound, you still need to hoot and holler for the Lord. Okay? And that's no play. That's neither here nor there. That's just that on that. And guess what happened? With Pharaoh being as mean as he was, he still let them people go and worship. Y'all didn't catch that. That's a highlight. You still want to make sure that you're worshiping in the midst of being held captive or being in a cruel situation, whatever the case may be. So you need to highlight that before we move on. We want to go through those highlights. Let me know if you got any questions. Comment down below. If you see this beautiful face, double tap the screen. Follow me, I'll follow you. Like my stuff, I'll like your stuff. My mama told me fair exchange ain't no robbery. Like that screen. You see it, you know it, and I did it for you. So show me that you appreciate it. Okay? So that's the highlight so far. Does it make sense? Y'all need to tell me if it makes sense, because I feel like y'all hearing, but y'all ain't listening. Y'all listening, but y'all don't hear. Because I still got things that I gotta get rid of as well. So nobody's perfect. You know what I'm saying? But there is a time where everybody has to be vigilant and willing to be about that action. So in a way that God was able to really feel like he could do his big one was seeing how the people were willing to worship in the midst of being slaves still at the time. They weren't even free yet, and they were still willing to do their big one. And he lightened the Pharaoh's heart to be able to do that. And at this point, Pharaoh had already suffered a number of things when he did let them do that, when he did let them go and worship. So highlight that. Now, when the unaliving of the firstborn male son, or the firstborn male, because even the firstborn male animals were unalived. Okay. During that time, there was specific things that the Israelites had to abide by during that time. In a sense, they kept that culture for generations, even still to this day. Okay. How they had to eat their food, prepare their food, etc. Okay. So sometimes in order for us to be protected from making sure that we don't get any stray bullets from when God gets the cutting up and punishing the enemy or whatever the case may be, sometimes there's certain things that you need to do a certain way, and that'll really protect you from when he come with that heat. Okay, so we want to highlight what the Israelites had did to be protected from the unalive angel. There was specific details, okay? So when you want to be protected from that heat, when you feel it, you'll know. You'll have a specific feeling in your gut. God will come to you. Sometimes he'll wake you up in the middle of the night, and out of nowhere you feel the urge to pray. do that. If you feel the urge to anoint your home, do that. Find the oil of your preference, pray over it, read a Bible verse over it, whatever the case may be, and put it around your home. Keep a Bible open. Whatever you feel like can protect you from whatever is going on, do it. You feel it, you know it, and it's because it's in our ancestors done it during a time where one of the most cruel situations happened, and that was because they were in slavery and they were forced to be freed in a very dramatic way. And it's not just for that day. Sometimes you have to continue to do that on a regular basis. In this case, they did it on a monthly basis or year round or whatever the case may be. Okay, so want to highlight how they handled that, which was the firstborn sons. That's going to be the Passover meal. Okay, they also had a number of things that they did to be protected and to show appreciation for what's to come before it even came. You have to do certain things before you even get freed from whatever's have you down in slavery. Okay, so we want to highlight that. We also want to highlight when Moses went from allowing Aaron to do all the talking for him to a certain point where he is now singing songs. Okay, so he went from being this timid man, old man who was paranoid and guilty, and to someone who was so much of a believer and began to sing. Now, if he had a little voice or little vocals, if he could sing, I don't know if it was given sang, but sometimes rejoice with your voice could really help you enhance your gifts. Okay, so you want to highlight when Moses get to singing. Okay, because that shows the biggest transition for a person that not only was on the run from murder, but stood up to the most powerful men at that time in Egypt with no back down. Okay. We want to highlight how, now I want to highlight how God was able to provide for these people who didn't have anything while they were traveling through the desert to get to the land of Canaan. Okay. Now that's T because it's never been seen before. And it sounds almost impossible, but that's the whole point. And so we want to highlight that real quick. Okay? So when they were traveling, they didn't have no food, no water, no nothing. Pharaoh let them leave with whatever they had, and they were slaves. So what you think they had? They probably didn't have much of nothing. Okay? So during this time, they didn't have anything. So God literally had to give them food out of thin air. But in order for them to have the food out of thin air, they had to handle it a certain way. One of the ways was they had to be rid of it before the morning. Okay? So sometimes we have to let go of what we think is good because it's really just something that God's doing for the time being. Okay? So you want to highlight that because they were being fed out of thin air, quite frankly. but they had to be rid of it before the morning. Sometimes we are being blessed out of thin air and we don't want to let go of it, but really it's just to kind of get you by so that way you can get to what the real promise is. But again, you cannot sit around and not do nothing. You have to return your appreciation in one way or another. One of my favorite highlights is God was bringing them water out of the rock. Okay? So what you think is impossible is not impossible. Okay? But remember, Moses got in trouble because when he was giving them water from rock, there's a specific kind of way that he was supposed to do it in order for it to be holy and sacred. In order for your blessing, whether it's temporary or not, to be healthy for you to receive, you have to be in a holy way, whether it's pray over it, worship, rejoice, whatever the case may be in today's time. We also want to highlight the 10 Commandments. They're very simple, but they can be kind of complex for sinners. Okay? But it's the basic things in life. You ain't supposed to hurt nobody, you ain't supposed to be mean to nobody, you're not supposed to steal, you're not supposed to unalive nobody, you're not supposed to mess with nobody else's woman or mess with nobody else's man, things like that. But one of the number one things that's highlighted, and even Jesus says this, when Jesus comes, he says this: love. You have to love one another, even when it's hard. You want to highlight that. I also want to highlight when we're going over, now they're getting to the point to where they've traveled to a point, now they've been from one landmark to another, they then created their own priest. It highlights how a priest is supposed to how a priest is supposed to dress and interact with their servants. So you want to highlight that because some people have been doing it in today's time in a very inappropriate way. That hasn't changed much in the current time. And that's why when Jesus came, he was calling them a whole bunch of hypocrites. So was John. If you guys don't know who John is, that is Jesus' cousin, and his story is very, very important as well, but also touchy. And I don't know, when I get through, if I can get through that one, big homie John. But yes, you wanna highlight the 10 Commandments, okay? But again, you have to be willing to be about that action. We also want to highlight when God chooses workers with special skills. Remember, we had one guy who was an artist, one guy who knew how to handle fashion. So sometimes God would use your natural talent and help you, encourage you to use it for holy ways or for Him. Okay? So if you're an artist, whether you sing or dance or paint, things like that, that is usually given from God, and in a way for you to be able to master it to the best of your ability, you definitely want to do it for Him directly, so that way you can maximize your gift as well as accumulate more. Another thing we want to highlight, obviously, is the not wanting to worship false idols. If it ain't got the name of the Lord on it, then it's not of the Lord, and it does make him jealous. And you will most likely, if he considers you his child, you will be disciplined for that. So you definitely want to highlight that in your life, okay, guys? Make sure that if it is not of God, if it don't say Jesus, if it ain't come from the book of the Bible, it will make Jesus jealous. It will make God jealous. You don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to get disciplined by God. Just go ahead and get rid of it and start over fresh. Get you a good old book. Do it the old-fashioned way. Now we're going to go into the highlights of Leviticus, okay? Now, the book of Leviticus Moses tells the Israelites of the rules that God wants them to obey and the proper way to make sacrifices and offerings, and also how to live a proper way, and the special day of atonement. Obviously, we want to focus on the day of Sabbath as well. I want to highlight specifically the day of Sabbath, okay? Number one, in the book of Leviticus, one of the things we want to highlight is worship. Find your niche on how you would like to worship, but that's going to be really your biggest weapon against anything that may attack you, especially if you are like the Israelites, if you just got out of slavery, if you just got rid of something that had you bound. If you just got rid of something that had you bound, that was treating you cruel, you felt like you were living a cruel life. If you just got out of that, you want to worship on frequently. Play you some gospel, okay? Play you some worship music, sing, even if you can't sing, or even if you just let it play in the background. But that's going to be one of your biggest weapons against overcoming slavery, overcoming whatever it was that had you chained and bound, okay? We also want to highlight in the book of Leviticus, it goes into great detail about offerings and sacrifices. So try your best to give back to God the best way you can. A lot of nowadays, we don't have to do it that way because we have Jesus. So find a way to get back to God, whether it's just talking about him, whether it's going to church and doing offering, whatever it is, try your best to get back to him in some way, shape, or fashion, because that will not only maximize your blessing, but it will also protect your blessing from being snagged. And it will also help you maximize your purpose with God. He'll start to highlight and open your mind up to what it is and what it ain't. Okay? Find a way to be rid of sin as well. I want to highlight in the book of Leviticus that they show you the old school way. The new school way is obviously the oil, blessing oil. A lot of people use the olive oil. Find a way to be rid of sin and do it on a regular basis. Nobody's perfect, so don't ever try to be perfect, but the less negative things you do, the better. Also, another thing that we want to highlight in this book of Leviticus is don't be a scammer. Don't deceive people, especially the innocent, because that'll really get you in big trouble. Back in the old days, as you know, Also, I want to highlight how Aaron's son was unalive for doing an offering in an inappropriate way. Now we have Jesus, but y'all probably don't know this story. I will go into detail. Jesus went up in that church and he saw that they was doing offerings in an inappropriate way, and he was turning the tables up because he know that that's the kind of stuff that got Moses' nephew off. So you better be happy that Jesus came and turned them tables up and got on that cross. Okay? Again, don't be doing inappropriate offerings. Don't do that. Okay, so I wanted to highlight that. Please, guys, if you are seeing my beautiful face, make sure you double tap that screen, like, share. Follow me and I'll follow you. If you bless me, the Lord will surely bless you. And guess what? If you mess with me, I'm gonna mess with you. And guess what? My mama always said, fair exchange ain't no robbery. Support me and I'll support you, period. Okay? It also, I wanted to highlight in Leviticus 19, it goes into how to please God if you want to impress him, but don't not too much on it, okay? But there is ways to please God, especially if you are coming out of slavery. If you've been bound to something and you want to please God and show appreciation, it goes into that. So I definitely want to highlight that because that is important in today's time as well. Now we're going to go into highlights that we went through in Numbers, okay? Which we're going to close it out on that and move on to our queens that I want to go over. I might only be able to get into one because I do have a meeting after this, but we are going to go into some highlights that I want to point out in the book of Numbers. Okay, so remember the book of Numbers, it tells you about the Israelites as they travel from Egypt to the land called Canaan. Okay, now it was a difficult journey through the desert, and Moses was the man that the Lord chose to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Okay, Aaron was Moses' brother, who was also the first priest, and many times at this point, the Israelites did not obey God, and so we're going to go through some of the. I'm going to highlight some of the things that happened when the Israelites was cutting up and being trifling. Now again, we have Jesus who paid for all of that for us, so we don't have to pay the way that these Israelites had to pay. But it is important to highlight some of these things because even though we don't have to pay in a similar way, we definitely have to get down with the get down on some of the things when we do similar disobedient activities. So, what I wanted to highlight is when Miriam and Aaron speak against Moses. Okay, now I know I stretched this a little bit. I do have some clips on this in my profile, but I want to highlight this again. Okay, when it comes to Moses, obviously he was a prophet. Aaron and his wife, they was talking out the side of their neck, and God immediately gave them a disease. So we want to highlight this because sometimes the people closest to us be the main ones doing this. Sometimes people be doing this about God's favorite or God's chosen or God's child. And God don't play about his kids. You feel me? So want to highlight that. For one, you want to highlight that because you need to watch your mouth. Don't be doing this if you don't know who the other person is, because you never know who that person could be. Don't be doing this. Number one, be very aware that just because that's your brother, just because that's your wife, just because that's somebody you consider family or whatever the case may be, even though you prophet, even though you're a chosen one, whatever the case may be expecting them to do this. Okay? Don't be thinking that. Don't take it personal. People just be doing this, and they I don't know why they do it. Okay? But know for sure, if you good with God, if you and God is like this, you will see with your own two eyes how the people that be running their mouth and bumping their gums, what God will do to them just by doing this. They ain't even got to touch you, friend. They ain't even got to touch you. You feel me? So you want to highlight that before we move over into our new leader, Joshua. We also want to go over, I want to highlight how the people turned against Moses, okay? Peep game. Moses used his little rock to make, used his little stick to make Pharaoh initially and the whole Egyptians were unalived at this point. Pharaoh and all his little chariots. They suffered before then. Moses was able to use the Lord's power to provide water from rock and food out of thin air. And he pulled these people out. He used the Lord's power, excuse me. Hold on, y'all. He used the Lord's power to free these people from such a treacherous lifestyle, from such a cruel life. And so these people still had something to say, and these people still turned against him. So I want to highlight that because no matter how good you treat people, no matter how good you can be to a person, whether it's your family, whether it's your bloodline, whether it's friends, whoever it could be expected that during your journey into the promise that God has for you, be expected to see them turn their back. Be expected to see that they will show their true colors and be ungrateful for everything that you ever did for them. Be expecting to see that because that happens to the greatest. It's nothing new. Don't take it personal. Just do your big one and be vigilant and understand. Ain't nothing personal. It's just that's just how people is. Yes, your feelings is gonna hurt, and yes, you're gonna continue to pray for them people because by the time you start seeing those kind of signs, God will already have humbled you. Remember, Moses was already humbled, so he was just praying for him, even though they was doing this, running their mouth and turning on him on a daily basis. Because they not only was they turning on Moses, but they was disobeying God. So you know what I'm saying? But I wanted to highlight that because even though he had did all of this stuff, even though him and the Lord did all this stuff for the Israelites, they still turned their back on him at some point a number of times. Okay? If you're just coming in here, it's your girl Cassie King, and I'm coming to you live in Kalani. We are doing some highlights before we move on to our new leader. If you are new here, that's okay. Head on over to my profile. I have enough sneak peeks. If you're going to my TikTok, I have enough sneak peeks on some of the things that we've already discussed. You can also head over to my YouTube and catch up on that tea over there as well. And if you're just coming in, double tap that screen, like, share, follow. If you support me, I will support you. My mama always told me fair exchange ain't no robbery. How y'all feeling today? So now we're going to go into I want to highlight a number of things that happened with the war. Okay. So today's time, we have war all the time. Some of us are at war with ourselves. Some of us feel like we can't do our big one. Some of us are ordained by God to go at war. Okay. So if you feel like that went over your head, I just want to let you guys know a number of things. Sometimes God will give us permission to do our big one. Sometimes God will give us permission to dog walk somebody at this time. Now we just use Jesus. But I want to highlight the fact that God will use his people to confront and whoop the enemy, because these people influenced the Israelites to be false idol worshipers. So after the participants were dealt with by God directly, the ones that was loyal to the soil went over there, put their tennis shoes on, and went to whooping. Okay? And God made sure that they were able to do it successfully. So sometimes you got to whoop on somebody, not in a literal sense, but sometimes you have to fight something that you may think you may not be able to defeat, but you can defeat it with the power of God, okay? And he will send you a helper, and he will make sure that you are protected during that battle. So I definitely want to highlight that for sure, because sometimes people overlook the inside scoop on the war that went down in Numbers 31, which was a treacherous experience for the Israelites, the survivors of the Israelites, because a lot of them were mad young. Okay. I'm talking 19 years old and younger. So these was a whole bunch of youngins getting down with the get down. You feel me? So make sure that it don't matter how old you is. Age ain't nothing but a number. You can always do your big one. You can always put your tennis shoes on and fight for yourself and with God. Okay? When you win that fight, when you win that battle, make sure that you know who helped you, and you show them that appreciation with an offering or give back. A lot of times people give back with their testimony. Now we're going to move into the book of Deuteronomy. Okay. So at this point, God chooses Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt still at this point. And he guided them through the desert for 40 years. Okay. So sometimes when we get to what's promised to us, sometimes it's not going to be overnight. Obviously, it's probably not going to be 40 years because we don't live as long as the people that used to live. But I wanted to highlight some insight on the book of Deuteronomy and give you guys some of the highlights that went down with that as well, with that book. So it's very important that the people in Deuteronomy, they were reminded, and then a lot of them were put on game because they were so young on what God was about, and the power that God stored in Moses and in the Israelites during their travel from Egypt through the desert. So he had to go into that, okay? But let me go over some highlights that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention. Give me one moment. I'm catching up to it right now. If you're just coming in, double tap that screen. Don't be a hater. It's your girl, Cassie King. I'm coming to you guys live and in color. Okay? And let me know that you appreciate it. I want to highlight how God punished people who worship false gods. Okay, so I know I've already went over that, but the fact that it's coming up again means that this is a big, big, big no-no. Okay, so don't be doing nothing else if it ain't the Bible, if it ain't got the name of Jesus on it, if it ain't got God on it. There ain't no point of you saying to give you any kind of glory or anything like that. Be very careful on what you think is real and what you think is not real, because sometimes God will let it work for you just to see if it's just to test your faith. And so I wanted to highlight that because Moses says that he will test your faith. He will send something to you that looks good, that is clearly not of God, but it seems like it's okay, to see if you're going to be like, oh, okay. Don't fall for it, friend. No, boo-boo. Don't do it. Don't do it. So I wanted to highlight that. That's going to be in Deuteronomy. I also want to highlight something as well, because I know that we give a lot of, oh, you better not do this, you better not do that. But God knows that we're human. God knows we have little puny brains. God will forgive you. And I want to highlight that. That's going to be Deuteronomy 30. God will forgive his people if they return to him and try to get their act right. He does have enough patience to forgive you if you want to turn around and be like, look, I know I was doing this, that, and the third. Forgive me. He will. But you got to stand on business, and you cannot be playing. You can't be about that play. You got to be about that action. He will forgive you, though. So I wanted to highlight that. Don't be so intimidated when I be punching down on the man. Don't be intimidated by that. Don't be intimidated by the commandments. Don't be intimidated by, oh, so-and-so got unalived, don't contact. Wooty, wooty, woo. Don't be intimidated by that, because at the end of the day, you can turn your life around. God will change your mind, the way you think, the way you feel, and he will forgive you. But one of the main things what Jesus say when Jesus get here, because Jesus be telling us, he be putting us up on game. If you want to be forgiven, then you have to have forgiveness in your heart. So what your mama did, your daddy did, your uncle, your brother, your friend, your sister, whoever, the enemy, the op, they did something to you, and you want God to forgive you for cutting up, whatever it is that you did, then you're going to have to forgive uncle, mama, daddy, whoever did something to you. My mama always told me, fair exchange ain't no robbery. Okay? If you want to be forgiven, you have to have forgiveness in your heart. That is the ingredient. And if you say, oh, okay, well, I'm tired of cutting up, Lord, I want to come back and be with you. That's cute. But what you going to do for him? Okay. There's a segment where Jesus forgives a man, and somebody going to say, the Pharisees. You know, the Pharisees was Jesus' biggest haters. That's why I be calling people Pharisees, big back Pharisee. You ain't nothing but a hater. They like, how you going to forgive him? Who is you to forgive him, whatever the case may be? And Jesus was like, first of all, you coming at me like it was easy. See, y'all, a lot of people let that go over their head because Jesus know why that man was sick like that and why he was being punished, whatever the case may be. And Jesus had to forgive him for that. And he said, you coming at me like it was easy. You think I was supposed to do a miracle. No, the forgiving part was the hard part, boo-boo. I could do a miracle. So even for Jesus, it was hard to forgive some of the people that he was healing and stuff because he know why they was suffering in the first place. But see, a lot of the people, they let that part go over their head. That's why you got to get in your book, friend. But yes, so Deuteronomy 30, God will forgive you. But the key to that and the ingredient to that, have some type of forgiveness in your heart, okay? At least initiate the thought of wanting to learn how to listen. Obviously, one of my favorite parts of Deuteronomy is when Moses sings that song in Deuteronomy 32, where God reads the Israelites for filth. He tells them how he feels, and he also goes into detail on what he's going to do about those feelings. When they hurt his feelings and they made him jealous, he was willing to be about all that smoke. He had all the smoke. Mm-hmm. So I want to highlight that song. I want you guys to go over to Deuteronomy 32 and read it. I read the easy version. Read the NIV version or whichever version you prefer. And that will give you an idea of how God feels when we be cutting up the way that we do. Okay. It's just like, you got to understand, right? I don't know if anybody's ever heard this saying, but they say, what is it? You in the worst trouble if you ever have to experience being the cause of a scorned woman. Somebody tell me what that saying is. When you make a woman mad, or even a man, okay, and you break their little heart, whatever, and you told them you was gonna do this, and they specifically told you what it was and what it ain't. Don't cheat on me. Don't break my heart. Don't lie to me. All of these things. And then you go and turn around and do it, and then she get the busting the windows out your car. That's what the song is giving, but worse. When she get to putting sugar in your tank, that's what it's giving. So go, y'all, go. I want to highlight that for you guys so you guys can see how God was feeling, because this how he be feeling, and then he expresses himself through the song. That's why you guys need to do your praise and worship, because some of the songs are used to express how God be feeling about us. And when you make a woman jealous or you make a man jealous, and he come over there and he get the whooping on you, I'm not saying it's okay. Y'all know I don't play that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is when you hurt somebody and you break their heart and you do to them what you said you wasn't going to do or what they told you specifically not to do to them, and then you go and do it, you break your loyalty, you break their trust, and then they come over there and they be ready to beat you up. That's basically how God was feeling in that song on Deuteronomy 32. Okay, and he tell you, oh, you want to make me jealous? Well, I'm gonna make you jealous. Oh, you want to go worship other people? Well, then I'm gonna let you go and worship other people. Just like with, say, for example, when you dealing with a woman or you dealing with a man, and do you call yourself going and giving the next woman or the next man the things that they feel like they deserve? They gonna be like, okay, go be with her then. And do you see that the grass ain't greener? That grass ain't greener on the other side. I've been there, yeah. I've been there. God said, when you realize that them false gods ain't giving what it was given, you're going to want to try to come home. And I'm going to say, where your false God at? And that's the same thing like when you with a man, woman, you go cheat on them, you do something disloyal or your friend or whatever. You're like, where Keisha? Where's Steve? He was buying you all these nice things. Now he don't want to leave his wife. Now you want to come here. Now you want to come back home. Now go back to Keisha. Go back to Steve, friend. And so that's basically what Deuteronomy is given. Deuteronomy 32 is given on how when Moses is singing that song, how Jesus was like, you cheated on me, you played in my face, you gave somebody else what you should have gave me because I deserve it because I've been holding you down since day one. But yeah, you gonna go and give that thing something else, something that I deserve, and then you turn around, you gonna play in my face and make me jealous. Now I'm about to make you jealous. Watch when you see me step out. Watch when you see me finally get tired of you and leave you, and you ain't no longer got me no more. Watch when my energy and my grace is no longer present in your life. Watch how you feel then. And then you're gonna want to try to come back. Then you're gonna want to try to come home. Nope. And then your friends, it say it in the song. Then your friends, your enemies, gonna be like, child. So and so must ain't let her go home. So and so must ain't let him come home. He ain't had clean clothes since. He ain't had a cooked meal since. That's what God was saying in that song. So y'all go. That's one of the highlights that I wanted to bring to your attention. Okay, friends? You're welcome. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Sit still. Hello? Hello? But yes, excuse me, guys. But yes, so in that Deuteronomy 32 is going to tell you how it's going to show you how God felt in that song. He made a diss track, and y'all need to go and read it because that's one of the highlights I definitely wanted to end it out with. Now, guys, I do have a meeting. I got a relative coming over, so I'm gonna try to get through the rest of these highlights. Excuse me. I'm trying to get through the rest of these highlights, chat. But yes, friend. Yes, friend. Yes. Hold on. I can't get them back. I gotta put these babies up because I need this phone to be working just in case I get another call. But yeah, y'all. So go and read that. Another highlight is before we head into the book of Joshua, Moses passed on in a very similar way that he had sent off the priests. So when we respect our elders or we respect those that pass on, we make sure that we do. A lot of people, we want to respect the unalive. Okay, sometimes people you see with these rappers and stuff, they like that f your dead homies, all this and that. That's a no in the eyes of the Lord. So I wanted to highlight, especially if it's a prophet or a priest and things like that. Try to give your farewells to those before us in a sacred way. Okay. Now, before I go into one of the ladies in the name of Black History Month, I want to give you guys the intro of Joshua, what to expect, what this is going to be about. And then also, guys, I want to go over one of our queens from back in the good old days. Okay. So give me one moment. I have to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for allowing me that beautiful restroom break. Now I am going to going ahead and head into the intro of Joshua. I'm going to head into the intro with Joshua, and then we're going to go over some beautiful ladies in the sake of Black History Month. And then I'm going to head out because I do have some things going on. Child. Okay. Wherever you are seeing this beautiful face, it's your girl, Cassie King. I'm coming to you live and in color. Double tap that screen. Don't be a hater. If you share my information, I will share your information. You support me, I will support you. My mama said, fair exchange ain't no robbery. If you bless me, the Lord will surely bless you. All right, so in the book of Joshua, the Israelites have traveled for 40 years in the desert while Moses was their leader. All the men that God brought out of Egypt had passed on. Moses had passed too. Now God has chosen Joshua to be their leader. He was one of the 12 men who had gone to look at Canaan, the land that God has promised to give to the Israelites. Okay, he and Caleb had not been afraid of the people who lived there. He trusted God to help them. The other 10 men had been afraid. See that in Numbers 14 on how everybody else was PC should talking about they gonna beat us up. But Joshua and Caleb, they were brave and they was like, not with God. God got us. Okay. Joshua was chosen specifically for his bravery and his strong faithfulness and belief. Okay. God would not let Moses himself go across the Jordan River into Canaan, for obvious reasons. If you missed that part, then you can head over to one of my clips. I believe I may have put it in one of my clips on my TikTok page, or you can also head over to my YouTube as well. Now, Joshua was the person that God wanted to lead the Israelites into the land that would be their new home. The name Joshua means God saves. The name Jesus also means the same. So Joshua and Jesus, Joshua and Jesus means God saves. Oh, because y'all know I said, I don't know if Joshua and if anything could beat Moses, but I was like, we got Jesus, so maybe it's gonna get better and better. You never know. I'm really happy to get into this tea with y'all. So this is what we're gonna pick up into on our next Bible tea party, and I'll get you guys squared away and scheduled for that. You guys will be ready for that as well. The book of Joshua tells how God helped his people to make their home in Canaan, and it also tells how God stopped the water in the river Jordan. Then the Israelites can go across into Canaan. It tells us how the Israelites won many battles when they obeyed God, and it also shows that God did what he promised to do for his people. So that's going to be what we're going to be getting into in the book of Joshua. Now let's go ahead and praise some of our women for their beautifulness that they did for us, okay? And let me know in the comments if you guys have any specific books that you will want to read from the Bible. I'll definitely take any requests. And then also let me know if there's anything that I need to clarify, if I said anything wrong, because sometimes I am kind of going through a lot of things quickly, and I do have mom brain. So I'm okay if there's any corrections that you guys need, that you guys feel you caught. Okay. Oh, bless me. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So the first lady that I want to bring up in the name of Black History Month is obviously our one and only Miss Famous, knock a nigga out, Harriet Tubman. Okay, Harriet Tubman was one of the most strongest Black women who initially was the Lady Moses, okay, in her time. She did a number of things that freed the people from slavery, which that's another reason why I wanted to pick up on her story during this Black History Month, considering the fact that we are ending that segment with Moses. And now that we went over a number of highlights, you'll also be able to see some of those highlights in Harriet Tubman's life, okay? which I'm very excited to share because as a Black woman, well, I'm a biracial. As a Black woman, I definitely love her story personally because my mom couldn't get enough of it. Okay, I grew up on hearing her story and knowing her reputation since I was a little tiny child. My mom loved Harriet Tubman. My mom read books. When my mom was going through her battle and being bound to certain things, we used to go to the library. She would tell me all about Harriet Tubman, how Harriet Tubman was this amazing person. Without further more ado, I am going to actually go based off of one of the platforms here, and we're going to read some of her beautiful reputation and what kind of person she was and how strong she was and why she is a legend to this day. And now I'm not going to go based off of memory. I'm going to read some information to you guys and share her story in the name of Black History Month. Okie dokie. Okay, so Harriet Tubman, she was initially a slave. Okay, so the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Byway recounts the life story of Harriet Tubman, freedom seeker, Underground Railroad conductor. She fought for human rights. She was an activist and one of Maryland's most famous daughters. Okay, so Harriet Tubman, guys, was born in 1822 in Dorchester County on Maryland's Eastern Shore. Tubman is one of the most lauded, recognized, and revered figures in revered figures in American history. Okay, her life and legacy will be shared even more widely if and when the new US $20 bill is unveiled. Okay, a new design may feature her likeness. If so, the Harriet Tubman would become the first woman and first African American on the US paper currency. So they are thinking to make a $20 bill for our legendary Harriet Tubman. Okay. Big Tubman, you feel me? Yes, yes, yes. She was a courageous leader, guys. Okay, the middle she was the middle child of 9 enslaved siblings. Okay, Harriet Tubman was raised by parents who struggled against great odds to keep their family together. She overcame a severe disability, maturing into an expert hunter, lumberjack, and field worker. Her powers prepared her to for the dangerous path she pursued as an adult. Okay, so I'm not sure if it's going to get into it, but she did suffer an injury as a child, which potentially gave her the gift to see, and she felt like it was like God telling her how to free the slaves, which is very similar in a sense to the story of Moses. So that's why I really wanted to bring her story in during this Black History Month to show our honor for her as our Black queen today. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So Tubman successfully escaped Philadelphia in 1849. Once free, she became an operator of the Underground Railroad, a secret network of people, places, and routes that provided shelter and assisted to escaping slaves. Okay, guys, she was courageous. She returned to Maryland at least 13 times, which is practically impossible for women during this time, which makes her just a hero. Period. Over the course of the decade, to rescue her parents, brothers, family members, and friends, guiding them to safely freedom. By 1860, Tubman had earned the nickname Moses. Okay, y'all catch that tea? For liberating so many enslaved people at great risk in her own life. So, guys, y'all know I told y'all I love me some Moses. My mom, we grew up on watching his cartoon, and my mom also used to tell us about her story all the time. So I figured since we're going to be ending out this Bible Tea Party with the Book of Moses, why not going ahead and give Harriet Tubman a big shout out thank her for her legendary acts for this beautiful Black History Month. Okay, guys? Deeply admired by ophthalmologists in the North, Tubman became a trusted friend and advisor to many, which earned her a role in the Union Army as a scout, spy, nurse, combined of generals. After the Civil War, she moved to Auburn, New York, where she turned her attention to plight of the needy, opening her home as a sanctuary for the elderly and ill and those with disabilities. So she was just a straight up humanitarian. She was obviously a hero and the Lady Moses. Okay. I mean, she had so many things under her belt. I mean, a spy, a nurse, general. I mean, dang girl. And then before she didn't do the traditional female slave work. She was doing like, hard labor work where she was really physically strong, where she chopped wood, I believe. So she was definitely a hero, guys, okay? So even before Civil War, she was fighting for the rights of women, minorities, disabled, and the aged. She became more active with time. She went on to open a nursing home for African Americans on her property in New York. She continued to ag, ag, okay. She again. Sorry. She continued to fight for women's rights until she passed in 1913. By then, Tubman had become the subject of numerous articles, recollections, and autobiography. While cloaked in mythology for far too long, Tubman's life finally began to be viewed in a proper proportion. Okay. Um, one needs only to visit the byway that bears her name to grasp the significance of her humble beginnings and scale of her achievements. Tubman's role was to serve others, fight oppressions, and make a difference in the world. All ideals that are celebrated along the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad byway were ordinary people and they did extraordinary things. She was indeed a hero, guys. Okay. Even after all of that, guys, she opened up her own personal land in her own home to help those in need, for those that were elderly, for those that were ill. I mean, she just continued down that journey of just being the Lady Moses, okay? She was born Arimata, which they called her Mittie Ross, into slavery in Dorchester County, Maryland, probably around 1822. Her parents, Harriet, they call her Red Green, and Ben Ross, were enslaved. The Protest family who owned her mother hired Harriet out and assigned her to do work including caring for children, checking traps, um, field and forest work, driving oxen, plowing, and hauling logs. I could never. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be Peter. Thank you, Harriet. She suffered a traumatic head injury as a young girl, probably in 1830s. The injury caused a lifetime of seizures, headaches, and visions. So y'all remember I told y'all in the story of Moses. Sometimes God will use something in your favor. Okay, what's used supposed to hurt you will be used to use you. Okay. After she married John Tubman, a free black man, around 1844, she changed her name from Araminta to Harriet, and thus became Harriet Tubman. Remember, Jacob, his name was changed to Israel. Y'all keep up, okay? Harriet was the chosen one, period. Y'all slept on her, but I'm about to wake y'all up. She escaped slavery and made it to Philadelphia, traveling alone, mostly under the cover of night in 1849. After she escaped, she spent more than 10 years, guys, making secret return trips to Maryland to help her friends and family escape slavery, guys. With each trip, she risked her life. Her last rescue mission was in 1860. So she did this for years, and she was protected the whole entire time. That had to be God. That had to be God. Yes, she had Jesus. I'm telling you. She had them visions. When the Civil War began, Tubman worked for the Union Army. Yes, she was that grill. Yes, she was in the Army, friend. First as a cook and a nurse, and then as an armed scout and spy, guys. Okay, so Harriet Tubman was not that one. She was that girl. Okay, she was about that action. She stood on business. Okay. She became the first woman to lead an armed expedition in the war. Okay, liberating more than 700 slaves. Okay. After the Civil War, she moved to property where she had purchased in 1859 in Auburn, New York, where she cared for her aging parents. She was involved in the suffrage movement, fighting not only for the rights of women, but also for minorities, disabled, and the aged. She passed on March 10th, 1913. She was buried in Auburn, New York. On April 20th, 2016, the U.S. Treasury Department announced a plan for Tubman to replace Andrew Jackson as the portrait gracing on the $20 bill. Amen. So that was Harriet Tubman, guys. I think that her story is completely underrated. We don't hear about her enough. She was amazing queen and hero. She had a number of blessings under her belt. She had the gift of vision, which means she probably was a descendant of Joseph, because Joseph used to have them dreams, and Moses used to have them encounters with God himself, and Moses freed all them slaves. So you never know. Maybe they had some type of bloodline. I don't know, but she was the Lady Moses. So we are ending out our story with Moses. What better to do but to talk about our hero, Harriet Tubman, who was indeed known to be the Lady Moses. Yes. So y'all wake that up. In the name of Black History Month, guys. Okay. I also wanted to go over another one of our lady heroes. Give me one moment. Oh. Now she got her little drink, y'all. All right, guys. Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, y'all. I forgot the name of the girl I'm looking for. Is that her name? There we go. Yes. So this little hero, which is Her name is Ruby Bridges. Okay, guys. Now, Ruby Bridges, the reason why she's going to be in today's segment is because not only is she a hero, but it's because of how young she was. Okay, guys. Um, just in the sense of Black History Month and what she did for such a young individual. Her story is such an inspiration to all the other little Black girls and girls of color, okay? So her name was Ruby Nell Bridges Hall. She was born September 8th, 1954, as an American civil rights activist, okay? She was the first African American child to attend formerly white only William Frantz Elementary School in Louisiana and New Orleans school, which was segregated at the time. Okay. Now, in the beginning of her life, or early in her life, Bridges was the eldest of 5 children born to Avon and Lucille Bridges. As a child, she spent much of her time taking care of her younger siblings, though she also enjoyed to jump rope and softball and climbing trees. She was so adorable, guys. She was the oldest child, but she was also still a very, very young kid. Okay. She was 4 years old. The family relocated from Tylertown, Mississippi, where Bridges was born, to New Orleans, Louisiana. In 1960, she was 60 years old. Her parents responded to a request from the National Association of Achievement of Colored People and volunteered her to participate in the integration of the New Orleans school system, even though her father was hesitant. Okay, so this little woman was only 6 years old, already accomplishing hero character traits. Okay, guys. Bridges was born during the middle of the civil rights movement. Okay, this was Brown versus Board of Education. Was decided 3 months and 22 days before Bridges' birth. Okay, the court ruling declared that the establishment of separate public schools for white children, which Black children were barred from attending, was unconstitutional. Accordingly, Black students were permitted to attend such schools, okay? Though the Brown versus Board education decision was finalized in 1954, Southern states were extremely resistant to the decision that they must integrate within 6 years. Many white people did not want schools to be integrated, though it was a federal ruling. So state governments were not doing their part in enforcing the new laws. In 1957, federal troops were ordered to Little Rock, Arkansas to escort the Little Rock 9 students in combating violence and that occurred following the decision. So guys, when they were going to school, it was like it was 9 students whose parents and these students were brave enough to start the trend on going to school with both whites and Black kids. And these kids were so brave, okay? And so, even though it was a federal law that was put in place, the community and the schools, they still weren't following the law. And so these kids say, you know what? Their parents were brave and these kids were really brave. And so they went to this school and they were escorted just for their personal safety because the other little kids would do mean things, okay? Under significant pressure, the federal government, the Orleans Parish School Board, administered an entrance exam to students at Bridges School with the intention of keeping Black children out of white schools. Okay. Bridges attended a segregated kindergarten in 1959. Oh, she was in kindergarten, guys. In early 1960, Bridges was one of the 6 Black children in New Orleans to pass the test that determined whether they could go to an all-white William Frantz Elementary School. So she was smart. She was a smart little girl. Two of the decided to stay at their old school. Bridges went to France by herself, and three children, Gail, Liana, and Tessie, were transferred to the all-white McDo number 19 elementary school. All four 6-year-old girls were escorted to school by federal marshals during the first day they attended the two schools. In the following days of that year, federal marshals continued to escort them. So they was escorted by the marshal. Mm-hmm. In your face. Ain't no segregated. We all supposed to come together. We all supposed to love each other. We're all supposed to be one of the same because God told us to. Bridget's father was initially reluctant, but her mother felt strongly that the move was needed not only to give her daughter a better education, but to take this step forward. So shout out to her mom. For all African American children, her mother finally convinced her father to let her go to school. Okay. Plus, she was smart, guys. She was so smart. She passed the test. She earned it. Okay. She earned it. Okay. Don't be jealous. Don't be peanut butter and jelly. Okay.